I always try to stay on top of any recent alien or UFO sighting news, and I just stumbled upon an article that I find very interesting. In Canada, the Royal Canadian Mint has just created a pretty awesome looking egg-shaped coin that glows in the dark. On one side is Queen Elizabeth II, and on the other is a man named Stefan Michalak, and it clearly shows Stefan lying on the floor while a UFO is flying right over him. And this is an official Canadian coin. So I wanted to do some research to try to figure out why the Canadian government would do this. And it turns out that this artwork is depicting one of Canada's most famous UFO sightings, and it is an awesome case. Now Stefan, who passed away in 1999, loved geology. It was one of his favorite hobbies. And on May 20th, 1967, he decided to go to Falcon Lake so he could do some prospecting for quartz and silver. And while he was enjoying the warm spring weather, he claims that he saw two glowing red cigar-shaped objects hovering in the air not too far away from him. And one of these crafts landed really close to him. And Stefan thought at the time that this must be some sort of military aircraft. So he started to sketch it. And about a half an hour later, it was still just sitting there, so he decided to approach it. The first thing that he noticed, beside the extremely bizarre shape, was that the air around this craft was extremely hot, and it smelled of sulfur. And he also noticed that this craft had a door and windows, but there were no seams. And since this craft was so hot, he put on his prospecting gloves because he wanted to touch it. And when he did, his gloves actually melted. He also stated that he heard some very strange sounds inside, as if somebody was talking, but he couldn't understand. So he tried to communicate with whoever was inside, but he got no reply. Then the craft started to spin counterclockwise and it took off, and the blast from the takeoff knocked Stefan back. Now Stefan was very confused and winded, but he managed to get back to his hotel. And from there, he took a bus back home, then he checked into a hospital because he felt very sick, and he also had burn marks all over his body from the craft taking off. And as the days and weeks followed, he also suffered from very severe headaches, blackouts, and weight loss. Now while in the hospital, he told everybody about this craft and what had happened to him. And this encounter did get some press at the time. And not that long ago, the Canadian government released the official documents. And according to these documents, the police and the government did find his burnt gloves, shirt, and tools at the location. And they also discovered a 15-foot wide circle burned into the ground. And all the vegetation within that circle was dead. And another interesting thing is the circle, his gloves, and his shirt were radioactive. And Stefan himself also appeared to be suffering from radiation poisoning. And after a long evaluation, the doctors and psychiatrists believed that he was telling the truth, at least in his mind. His son Stefan Michalak, who was 9 years old at the time, stated recently, "I recall seeing my father in bed. He didn't look good at all. He looked pale. And when I walked into the bedroom, there was a huge stink in the room, like a real horrible aroma of sulfur and burnt motor. It was all around and it was coming out of his pores. It was bad. I was very afraid. My dad had been injured and I didn't know anything about it." Now this is an amazing case. And the thing that stood out to me most was the sulfur, because it is believed by many that UFOs get their energy from volcanoes. And some even believe that in some of these volcanoes, there is an underground UFO base. And in my last Mount Shasta video, we did talk about all the cigar-shaped UFO sightings that have happened around Mount Shasta. And we also talked about a young man named Frederick who in the late 19th century claimed that he had actually seen an underground city within Mount Shasta. And this underground city did have cigar-shaped UFOs, but he didn't call them UFOs at the time, he called them airships. And Mount Shasta is in fact a volcano. Then about a year ago, 150 people claimed that they had seen a large opening near the top of Mount Adams. And many believe that this opening was actually a huge door opening up so UFOs could leave and enter. And there are a heck of a lot of UFO sightings here. And yet again, Mount Adams is a volcano. One very famous case happened in 1947 when a pilot, Kenneth Arnold, claimed that he saw about 9 UFOs fly past Mount Rainier. And I guess this pilot was trying to follow them because he also said that these UFOs just disappear while they're flying right over Mount Adams. And it seems that even back then, in the 40s, people believed that Mount Adams was hiding some sort of secret UFO base. Which is extremely interesting because they also say that about Mount Shasta and dozens of other volcanoes around the globe. Now when it comes to these UFO sightings and encounters, there are just way too many of them. And most of them are extremely credible, such as Stefan Michalak's. And just maybe not too long from now, and hopefully within our lifetimes, we will finally know the truth about who's controlling these UFOs. Are they extraterrestrials from the cosmos? Are they interdimensional? Are they beings from the Hollow Earth? Are they secret military aircraft? Or maybe there's something else that we might not even be able to comprehend. Until next time, this is Paranormal Junkie. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned.